Hi, so going to show you how to make an acid-based sound using the Alchemy synthesizer in Logic Pro X. So the type of sound we're going for is something a bit like this, and I've just programmed some drums for the sakes of demonstration. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what we're going for. So what I've done is I've copied over my MIDI parts, and I've got a new instance of Alchemy set up, and it's just with my default patch, which I got through going here and just clearing the what you find as the defaults in Alchemy, because it's not very helpful for learning synthesis. So first things first, we're going to start with source A and go to the source, and I chose the vintage one saw, so it's just a little bit warmer than what we'd find with just the normal. Okay, going to go over to the voices section next, and I'm going to put it on legato. Because it's a bass sound, I'm only going to have a single voice, so the notes can't overlap and both be heard. It will just switch from one to the other. And I'm going to turn up the glide time so we get slides, so any overlapping notes we have in our MIDI part will create slides between the notes. So at the moment it sounds like this. Okay, just going to make some minor changes to the amp envelope. So just going to turn up the decay ever slightly and turn the sustain down quite a way to about 11 o'clock. Just nudge up the release ever so slightly just to avoid any potential clicks or pops. Okay, so that's our basic sound setup. So we've got saw on vintage 1, we've got it in legato mode, one voice and a bit of glide, and that has been run through the first filter here, and that is shown down here. Okay, so first things first, with the filter we're going to start to set up some modulation. So just going to turn that all the way down, right click on it to add modulation, and I'm going to assign it to control 1, which is this performance controller down here. And then if we go over and turn the depth all the way up, you can see the little orange circle appears round. And what this means is that this is going to control performance control 1 will control the filter cutoff. So you can hear as I move that, high frequencies are being introduced when I turn it up and removed when I turn it down. So we're going to do a similar thing with the resonance control on the filter. So right click on it there, down to control 2 under perform, and then just turn the depth all the way up. And I'm just going to put the drive to about 9 o'clock-ish. So there we've kind of got the basics of our sound already going already. So next thing I'm going to do is go back to the cutoff and add another modulator. So I'm going to right click and go to new AHDSR. And what we're going to do here is assign the depth of this, so how much it's going to impact on the filter, to perform control 3. And I'm just going to relabel that just by double clicking on it, so that is now the M for envelope 2 and the depth. So what you should hear now when I turn that up is a slight change in the filter cutoff. Oh sorry, I've not turned the depth up over here. Okay, so we can hear that with the depth turned up, it's now impacting on the filter cutoff, because that is where it's assigned to. Okay, so next things we're going to assign another control to envelope 2's decay. So I'm going to turn this all the way down, right click on it, add modulation, and we are going to go for the next performance controller, control 4. We'll turn the depth of that all the way up, just rename it, so that's M2 decay. Okay, so we've got that going. We won't hear much difference until we work with the sustain as well, so I'm just going to turn that all the way down, right click on it and go to perform control 5. Just going to rename that, that is M2 sustain, and turn the depth all the way up. So now it will sound like this. So we're starting to build a much more expressive instrument. So next thing, I'm going to go up here and add another oscillator, and I'm going to choose exactly the same oscillator, which was Saw Vintage 1. I'm actually going to go in and look at this one in its own detailed view. So I want this oscillator to be at a different tuning, so I'm going to go to the coarse tuning. So I want it an octave higher, so that's 12 semitones is in an octave, so it's the same note. So that's what that sounds like, but I'm going to make this a seventh higher as well, so it'll give it a bit of a different feeling. Okay, but I may not want that in all the time, so what I'm going to do is go over to its volume over here on the right hand side of the screen, and we are going to add a performance control to that. So we are up to 6, just rename that 7th note. Okay, turn this down, turn the control up. Sorry, don't turn that down because it's already got the orange circle around it. You can see I've got the option then of adding in the 7th note, which we'll hear more if I turn the cutoff right on. So it can be nice just if you needed a section of the song where you wanted a little variation, but you didn't necessarily want to change your groove that you've set up with your placement of all your MIDI notes, then you could always add in a 7th note. Okay, so next thing we're going to go back to the global view, back up to the cutoff, and add yet another modulator. So we're going to add LFO1. It's going to change the rates to eighth notes because these are quite fast notes we're playing. Okay, and then what we're going to do is assign the next performance control, control 7. So the depth. So I'll just rename that filter 1 LFO depth. And that's clear what we've done. So it's important to rename these just so when you come back to the patch at a later date, you understand what's going on. Okay, and then final thing, we've got one more performance control. So I'm going to add a delay. I'm going to go for bandpass ping pong. Okay, and this is what this sounds like. So just go back to the performance controls, turn the cutoff up a bit because you can't hear it. Because it's a filtered delay, it's got these cutoff points. It's actually removing a lot of the low frequencies in the delay, which is really good for keeping the mix from getting muddy and untidy low end. You generally want your low end in mono. I'm going to assign the mix control, just turn it down, to the final performance control. Okay, and then just turn up the depth on that a little. And then that enables us to add some delay as we choose, and because it's a ping pong delay, it means it's the delay switches between the two stereo sides of the mix, and it will give you a nice bit of stereo interest when you want to get a little bit of variation. Okay, and that is how you can make quite a complicated bass patch from a simple sound, but it's going to give you loads of creative freedom and chance for expression through modulating these, and we'll look at different ways that you can do that using Alchemy shortly. Thank you very much for listening, and hope this is helpful. I'm just going to save this patch because that's good practice, and I might want it for a later date, but we'll leave the video for now. Thank you.